The Zobe Disease, also called the Immortality Disease, is a mysterious sickness, and one of the 5 threats that humanity met in the Dark Continent. It can be contracted southeast of the known world. Approximately 50 years before the current events of the series, the Kukanu Kingdom embarked on an expedition to the Dark Continent, searching for the alchemical plant Metallion, which we'll be discussing later. Guided by Bion Nero, the party of hunters and expedition members were successful in obtaining it. However, they became lost on the way back, and took a wrong turn, leading to some of its members contracting the Zobe Disease. Of the entire expedition team, hunters included, only Bion and 5 others survived, along with a hunter infected by the disease, and worst of all, the plant they obtained withered and died. Not much is known about the Zobe Disease. The current chairman of the Hunter Association, Cheadle Yorkshire, proclaimed that its danger rank is B+, which is even higher than the Chimera Ants were, sitting at rank B. The sickness seems to have a high fatality rate, seeing as how out of all the members of the expedition who contracted it, only 1 managed to survive. The only known survivor, also a hunter, obtained the remarkable ability to live entirely self-sufficient and without sustenance for many years, essentially becoming immortal. However, self-sufficiency can only be achieved through feeding on one's own flesh, while the disease greatly accelerates the regeneration of tissues. This leads to an endless cycle of self-consumption. As seen by the only living infected human, this process breaks the mind of the person, to the point that they simply become a mindless zombie. It is also possible that, among other symptoms, it causes their skin to turn dark in color. It is still unknown how this disease is contracted, and there is no known cure. Bion, known as the Botanical Weapon, is a mysterious being and, like Zobe, is one of the 5 threats. It's located in a labyrinth city, about 400 kilometers from the edge of a forest north of Lake Mobius. Bion appears as a large sphere on top of a human body where the head should be, making it kind of look like that guy Let Me Solo Her from Elden Ring. However, the stats of the 5 threats confirms that Bion is a species or taxonomic group, rather than a single entity. This is further proven when we get a glimpse of some of the victims of the various threats. One victim can be seen missing a head, with their insides hanging out of their abdomen. When the United States of Sahara sent their elite forces on an expedition to the Dark Continent, they went through the north of Lake Mobius, and ended up in a sea of trees. After traveling through this terrain for 400 kilometers, they found the ruins of an ancient city, with a mysterious labyrinth. It was there that they found a miracle herb that can cure almost any illness. Unfortunately for them, this is also where they met Bion, the guardian of the ruins, who completely decimated them, leaving only 2 survivors. The fact that Bion is located in an ancient city makes it possible that this is a sign that humans once lived in this area, and were taken out by the threat long ago. Not much is known about Bion's abilities, but Cheadle Yorkshire proclaimed that it's a danger rank of B+, which, like Zobe, is higher than that of the Chimera Ants. And really quick, if you enjoy straight to the point informative content revolving anime and manga without any sorts of fluff like in this video, then make sure to subscribe because that's pretty much all we have here, and we post all the time. But anyway, Hellbell, the twin-tailed snake, is a mysterious snake-like being that is one of the 5 threats. It lives in the swamplands of the Dark Continent, situated south of Lake Mobius. Hellbell is a snake-like creature with 2 tails. Its distinguishing feature is a large, black lump resembling a bell, from which it gets its name. The skin of its neck up to the black lump from which the tails sprout looks twisted in texture. When the Federation of Ulima did an expedition to the Dark Continent, searching for Nitro Rice, a type of food that increases longevity, the expedition group went through the south of Lake Mobius, and ended up in a wild swampland. There, 99% of them fell prey to Hellbell, leaving only 11 people surviving the attack. Hellbell is said to infect its prey with homicidal desire. According to Jing Freaks, the threat level of Hellbell is B+. However, the current chairman of the Hunter Association, Cheadle Yorkshire, proclaimed that its danger rank has been raised from B+ to A, higher than the Chimera Ants and the other 2 threats we've covered so far. It's likely that when the Federation of Ulima came into its territory, Hellbell infected one or several of the 1,100 plus people, and the infected party went on to take out the other travelers in a murderous rage. It's not clear how Hellbell infects its targets, but it's possible that it could either be through a bite, or by creating a certain sound frequency like a rattlesnake. It is currently unknown if Hellbell is a single creature or a species. I, a gaseous life form, is a small creature shrouded in darkness, and is one of the 5 threats. It lives south-southwest of Lake Mobius, but some of its victims have been also found in the known world. Little is known about Ai's appearance, but it seems to be a gaseous lifeform with limb-like appendages extending from its main body. Its name seems to derive from the sound it makes when it speaks. Some time ago, the Mimbo Republic enlisted the help of the Hunter Association and sent an expedition team to the Dark Continent in search of the Trinity Elixir, and at some point, they encountered Ai. After a still unknown dispute or struggle ensued, only 3 survivors returned. Even worse, the few survivors had gone completely insane. While it's said to have been locked up after being brought back from the Dark Continent, there have been victims of Ai found within the known world. Not much is stated about Ai's abilities, but according to the Hunter Association's Dangerous Creatures Evaluation list, Ai merits a threat level of A, on par with Hellbell. The deaths caused by Ai in the known world may be the work of Nanika through Alakazoldyck, as she was revealed to have originated in the Dark Continent, and she shares many similarities with Ai. This means that a potential ability that Ai has is the power to grant any wish, much like Nanika can do. Nanika's victims are either squashed or wrung to death if her requests are refused. Some of the ascertained victims of the 5 threats were killed in the exact same way. Nanika's possession of Aluka, her wish to please others, and her devotion to Killua could be related to Ai's description as the codependence of desire. Pap, known as the human-keeping beast, is a mysterious creature that feeds on humans and keeps them as pets, and is the last of the 5 threats we'll be discussing. It lives in a Dark Continent mountain range, along the northeast shore of Lake Mobius, but some of its victims have also been found in the known world, suggesting this threat is loose somewhere in the human realm. Pap's true appearance is still unknown, but it seems to be able to sprout feelers, which it inserts in the skulls of its human victims. When the Beij Rose Union sent 1,000 people on an expedition to the Dark Continent, they entered through the north of Lake Mobius, and secured a route inside the rugged mountain range. There they found a miracle mineral called Unmanned Rock. However, that zone was also the territory of Pap. Of the 1,000 people, only 7 of them managed to make it out alive. Some of its victims that were found in the known world are also secretly stored in the basement of the International Permit Agency. According to the Hunter Association's Dangerous Creatures Evaluation list, Pap merits a danger rank of A. Its victims are shrunk to the size of dolls, and have a flesh-like tube connected to the top of their heads. The creature's full title reads, a trade-off between life and pleasure, which relates to its twisted ability of feeding on humans and keeping them as pets, while putting the victim in a state of euphoric bliss, essentially making them enjoy the fact that they are slowly being killed. Since multiple sets of eyes were shown during its description in chapter 341 of the manga, Pap might be a species rather than a single creature. The Pap's ability to shrink its victims is likely based on the tradition of creating shrunken heads, which has religious significance to some indigenous tribes. It is believed that shrinking the head of one's enemy can harness their spirit and compel them to serve their shrinker. Chimera ants are extremely dangerous insects, designated quarantine level 1, also known as gourmet ants. Due to carefully selecting their food, they have voracious appetites, and can consume several times their own weight in a single day. It is not uncommon for chimera ants to devour their preferred fodder species to extinction. In general, not even chimera ant queens become bigger than 10 centimeters, but gigantic chimera ant queens, over 2 meters tall, can be found in the Dark Continent. The Hunter Association classified the colony led by Meruem as a B-level threat. Chimera ant queens possess an entirely unique method of reproduction, known as phagogenesis, a term meaning reproduction through consumption. By eating other creatures, a chimera ant queen can impart the characteristics of ingested creatures onto the next generation of chimera ants it gives birth to. For example, if a queen ate a bird, the offspring might be born with wings. Furthermore, if the queen devours multiple different species in a single sitting, then the offspring will have the genes and characteristics of those multiple species. If the queen devoured a bird, turtle, and a goat, the offspring might have a combination of wings, a turtle shell, and a goat head. However, regardless of what traits they possess, chimera ants are still ultimately insects. The queen can produce up to 5 eggs with one meal. Chimera ants have been known to feed until the fodder species is driven to extinction in its ecosystem to take full advantage of the genes of a particular species. Humans in particular are known to be extremely nutritious fodder for chimera ant queens, with Zazan speculating that humans who can use Nen have the nutritional value of 1,000 ordinary humans. Due to this unique method of reproduction, each generation of chimera ants is profoundly different from the one that came before it, and even individual ants from the same generation exhibit profound genetic differences, which are expressed through their unique appearance. After the chimera ant invasion of NGL, most of the remaining hybrid ants were given classification as magical beasts, giving them permission to inhabit the human realm. This excludes an army of 5,000 ant hybrids that were created using one of Shiapuf's abilities, in which humans are put into a cocoon and reborn as ants with Nen abilities. These ants were recovered on Pariston Hill's order, soon after the conflict. What will become of these ants is yet to be seen. Metallion is one of the 5 great known treasures of the Dark Continent. Metallion is known as the alchemical plant for its ability to change the properties of precious metals. In theory, Metallion has the ability to change the properties of any base metal into valuable ones, like gold or silver. The power of such a plant could turn a third world country into the richest in the world overnight. This is why at some point in the past, the Kukanu Kingdom sent an expedition team to recover the miracle plant. Unlike any other recorded voyage to the Dark Continent, the team managed to actually locate and recover what they were looking for. Unfortunately, the team led by Bion Nero somehow got lost on the way back and wandered into an area where most of the team caught the Zobe Disease, leaving only 6 survivors including Nero and an infected hunter being held in captivity by the Hunter Association. Some even speculate that Bion Nero sabotaged the returning mission on purpose, arguing that there was no way an elite hunter like him could even get lost in the first place if he had already managed to get them to their destination in the first place. The reason behind this treason is unknown, and this is all of course merely speculation. The herb for all illness is yet another miracle plant from the Dark Continent, and one of its 5 discovered treasures. It's believed to have unique medical properties that can cure over 10,000 known illnesses. It's a plant that not only could save countless lives, but from an economic standpoint, could bring unimaginable wealth to any nation that's able to obtain it. With this in mind, the United States of Sahara sent their elite forces on an expedition to the Dark Continent in search of it. After traveling 400 kilometers through a sea of trees, they found the ruins of a mysterious labyrinth city. It was there that they discovered the herb, but also unfortunately met Bion, the guardian of the ruins. Using its unknown abilities, it easily killed the entire elite squad, aside from 2 survivors that returned with little sanity left. It's also worth noting that it's been implied that the herb of all illness is a target for the current expedition to the Dark Continent. This is because after boarding the ship, we see an official from the International Permit Agency named Steiner brushing up on the real destination of the Dark Continent expedition, the Labyrinth City. This of course being the very city where the plant and Bion were encountered. Nitro Rice is a grain found in the swamplands of the Dark Continent and is one of its 5 known treasures. It's known as the ultimate secret to longevity, said to be able to extend one's lifespan far past that of a regular human. For obvious reasons, it's a grain that could single-handedly revolutionize humanity, leading it to become the target of the Federation of Ulima, which once sent an expedition team that landed in the swamps of Lake Mobius, where the grain is located. However, this is also where they encountered Hellbell and were almost entirely wiped out. What's interesting about this particular Dark Continent treasure is that it's been theorized to be the reason Isaac Nero was able to live so long and still be in excellent physical shape up until his death. No confirmed age has been attributed to Nero, but it's possible that he was even centuries old before his death. This claim is further backed up by the fact that Nero had once traveled to the Dark Continent with Zig Zoldyck and Lynn Hors d'oeuvre, both of which are still alive. Nitro Rice is also said to be responsible for the 300-year-long survival of Don Freaks, who we'll be discussing a little bit later. Although this is merely speculation by Jing Freaks, he argues that Don is still traveling along the coast of the Dark Continent. Again though, neither of these theories have been confirmed in the series. The Trinity Elixir is located on the southern shores of Lake Mobius and is one of the 5 treasures known to exist in the Dark Continent. Little is known about its properties, but it's said to be the mother solution of all sorts of liquids. In theory, this could mean that the Trinity Elixir can be used to create liquids like fresh water and essential fuels, both of which are precious resources for any nation. This is why the Mimbo Republic sent a team of elite Hunter Association members to retrieve it, in hopes of making them a dominant superpower in the world. However, the south shores of Lake Mobius is also where the gaseous creature Eye resides, leading to a still unknown dispute that led to the deaths of nearly every person there, save for 3 survivors that returned without any shred of sanity. Unmanned rock is found in the mountain ranges of the northeastern shore of Lake Mobius, and is the last of the 5 known treasures found on the Dark Continent that we'll be discussing today. It's known as the Inexhaustible Stone, and a mineral ore said to have truly revolutionary properties. This rare mineral is said to generate electricity when submerged underwater. Incredibly, a mere pebble of this rock can generate as much as 20 megawatts of power per day. To put that into perspective, the average North American home uses 1.39 megawatts of power per day. This means that a single bead of unmanned rock can power up to 10 homes for an entire day, or a single home for almost 3 weeks. This is clearly a resource that can send humanity into an unparalleled era of growth and prosperity, as the cost and availability of energy would be completely revolutionized. This is why the Beij Union attempted to retrieve the stone, but of the 1,000 people they sent, only 7 survived an encounter with one of the 5 threats, known as PAP, and returned empty-handed. As seen through the Dark Continent map and the various recorded expeditions, signs that humans once inhabited this land are pretty evident. Simply looking at the aforementioned Dark Continent map, we can see the ruins of man-made structures that resemble buildings sprinkled throughout the landscape. Along with these buildings, there appear to be unique and massive man-made structures, such as a large coliseum, and even a city floating in the sky. If the size of these structures are relative to the size of the known world shown in the map, they appear to be colossal in size, with the floating city alone being the size of a whole nation in the human realm. Even the large crater in the center of the map is large enough to engulf every single nation in the known world. Another interesting detail is that one of the land birds on the map bears a resemblance to the Pico, which is a large land bird that was used by the Kurta clan. This fuels the speculation that the Kurta clan are actually leftovers from the original humans that settled in the known world, in the center of Lake Mobius, in order to escape the unrelenting environment of the Dark Continent. The name Dark Continent itself is a reference to the name given to sub-Saharan Africa in the 19th century. This was due to the little knowledge people had of this land at the time, believing it to be a continent filled with dangerous creatures and unknown mystical treasures. Considering that many believe that humans originated in Africa and migrated to the rest of the world, this could be a clue that the humans in the known world of HunterxHunter originated in their version of the Dark Continent as well. Taking another look at the Dark Continent map, one can clearly see that a large assortment of mind-boggling monsters sit atop the food chain of this unforgiving terrain. Before even entering the Dark Continent, the waters surrounding its shores are inhabited by colossal sea creatures, each of them the size of entire nations. Once on the mainland, things don't get much better. As seen when Isaac Netero's unofficial voyage there was referenced, even creatures that could dominate the known world are prey to the incomprehensibly massive monsters that truly rule there. These include behemoth sandworms, flying beastly insects, and even a species of humanoid monsters that can be seen towering in the back half of the map. It seems that the farther one travels into the mainland of the Dark Continent, the more hellish the landscape and massive the creatures become. It is also said that magical beasts originated from the Dark Continent as well, and is of course the original home to the Chimera Ants. The new continent is an uninhabited island located in the uncharted waters of Lake Mobius, and outside the territory colonized by mankind thus far. In the world of HunterxHunter, the known territory colonized by mankind is located in the center of the enormous Lake Mobius, itself being located in the center of the Dark Continent. A far ocean boundary lies in Lake Mobius between the colonized territories and the Dark Continent, and encloses a neutral zone. The neutral zone itself is separated into territorial waters, where all of humanity's normal navigation and fishing takes place, along with uncharted waters. This is where the new continent is. This mysterious land is believed to be much safer than that of the Dark Continent, which is why the V6 passed it off as the actual Dark Continent for the public at large who sought to travel there with the Kakin Empire. The Gatekeeper is a race of magical beasts that guard the only known safe pathway to the Dark Continent. Without them, it would be impossible for humans to get past the known world's oceanic borders, since as we just covered a minute ago, they are infested with crazy sea creatures. Travelers who wish to enter the Dark Continent must be accompanied by a guide, which is summoned by the Gatekeeper through unknown means. The job of the guide is to ensure the safe return from the voyage. However, the guide is also tasked with sending the returning party back to the known world with one of the 5 threats if their mission ends in failure. This is done to deter the world from traveling there altogether. Don Freaks is the supposed author of Journey to the New World, a traveler's journal about the Dark Continent. Given his name, he's also presumably an ancestor of Jing and Gon. Over 300 years ago, Don traveled to the Dark Continent and wrote a journal consisting of 2 volumes, East and West. While the East edition is in the hands of the V6, the West edition was never found. According to Jing, there are 3 possibilities to explain this. It has yet to be found, it was never written, or Don is still currently working on writing it, which would suggest that he is still alive. This would be possible through the consumption of Nitro Rice, which dramatically increases one's lifespan, and the Herb of All Illness, which would allow Don to avoid sickness during his travels, both of which are cataloged in the Journey to the New World East edition, meaning Don is well aware of their location and benefits.
Beij Rosé Union. The Beij Rosé Union is a country located between European and Asian continents, on some yet-to-be-named landmass. It's currently a part of the V6 Alliance and was one of the original members of the V5 until the Kakin Empire joined the party, making it the V6. Since historical artifacts tell of disasters hitting every time humans tried exploring the Dark Continent, the V5 created a hard protocol 200 years ago, called the Inviolability Treaty, that prohibited said expeditions. But this treaty hasn't stopped people. In the past few years, there have been 149 attempts to sneak off to the Dark Continent. One of those bold moves came from the Beij Union. Their trip was one of just 5 documented but unsanctioned voyages to the Dark Continent. With the aid of guides, a race of magical beasts summoned by the Gatekeeper, the crew secured a route along the northeast shore of Lake Mobius to find a valuable resource called the Unmanned Rock. This special ore is like the holy grail of energy. Drop a bead of it in water and you get 20 megawatts of power for an entire day. The crew, made up of a whopping 1,000 people, actually found the rock in the northeastern mountain ranges of Lake Mobius. The momentous discovery could have been a jackpot for humanity, but the celebration didn't last long. Turns out the area is home to Pop, one of the Dark Continent's 5 threats. Pop is a parasitic beast that takes over people's nervous systems and turns them into obedient little pets. It jams a sprout-like feeler into their skull to control their brains. Its victims shrink to doll size and grow antlers. Pop acts like an unintentional guard for the unmanned rock, making it nearly impossible to snag without major casualties. According to the Hunter Association's Dangerous Creatures Evaluation list, Pap is ranked A for a danger which is even higher than the Chimera Ants. Its description, a trade-off between life and pleasure, suggests there's something extra sinister about its powers. Sadly for the Beij Union's expedition team, Pap wiped them out with ease, with only 7 people surviving the horror. Some of Pap's victims eventually showed up in the known world and are now secretly stored in the basement of the International Permit Agency. United States of Sahara. The United States of Sahara is a country in the middle of the European continent and one of the V6 nations. If you're a fan of the series, you'll know 2 notable locations in Sahara: York New City, where all the auction chaos went down, and the Gordur Desert, the infamous battleground where Kurapika and Ubogin had their deadly showdown. In the past, Sahara decided to break the V5 strict no expedition to the Dark Continent rule and sent its special forces on an exploration. The team ventured north of Lake Mobius and stumbled into a massive sea of trees. After trekking through the dense forest for about 400 kilometers, they came across the ruins of an ancient city. Inside this mysterious place was a labyrinth, and at the center of it was the very thing they're searching for: the herb of all illnesses, a legendary plant from the Dark Continent that can supposedly cure any disease. The discovery once again sounds like a major win, but not so fast. The ancient city wasn't exactly unguarded. Bion, a terrifying botanical weapon, protects the uninhabited city and the miracle herb as well. Bion appears as a gigantic sphere perched where a human head should be, sitting atop a humanoid body. Not much is known about its abilities, but it's officially ranked as a B+ threat, making it even more dangerous than the Chimera Ants. Surprisingly, Bion absolutely obliterates the Sahara forces, leaving only 2 survivors to tell the story. There's a theory floating around that Bion's creepy appearance might be because the spherical weapon attached itself to the headless corpse of one of the victims. Whatever the case, it's clear that Sahara's attempt to outsmart the Dark Continent ended in disaster. Federation of Ulima. The Federation of Ulima is a V6 nation located south of the Asian continent on an unnamed landmass. At one point, they sent an expedition team of 1,100 people to the Dark Continent. Their mission is to track down the Nitro Rice, a super special grain said to extend your life if you eat it. The team headed to the far southeastern part of Lake Mobius, aiming for the swamplands where the rice is supposedly grown. Sounds easy enough, but no. They didn't even make it to the swamps because they stumbled into the territory of Hellbell, one of the 5 threats. Hellbell is a snake-like nightmare with a horrifying ability. It infects its prey with an uncontrollable urge to kill. How? Probably through a venomous bite that messes with your mind and turns you into a homicidal maniac. When the Ulima expedition crossed into Hellbell's turf, it was game over. The creature wiped out 99% of their team, leaving just 11 people alive to tell the tale. As for Hellbell itself, it's ranked with an A-level threat, putting it right up there with the most dangerous creatures on the Dark Continent. Whether it's a single beast or an entire species, it's still a mystery. But one thing's for sure, it's not something you want to mess with. Mimbo Republic. The Mimbo Republic is a country located just south of the Republic of Padokia and is one of the V6 nations. At one point, they teamed up with the Hunter Association to send an expedition to the Dark Continent with a big goal in mind: retrieving the Trinity Elixir. This mysterious substance is the ultimate liquid capable of solving water supply issues forever. It's said to be located in the south-southeast of the Dark Continent. But as you might have guessed, things didn't go as planned. On their journey, the crew ran into Ai, one of the Dark Continent's 5 threats. Ai is a total mystery. It's described as a mist-like creature with limb-like appendages stretching out from its gaseous form. No one knows exactly how it works, except for the fact that Ai has a horrifying habit of killing humans in extremely grotesque ways, leaving its victims' bodies either squashed or wrung to death, based on the bodies of the recovered victims preserved in the basement of the International Permit Agency. That's exactly what happened to the Mimbo expedition team. Whatever went down between the crew and Ai, it didn't end well. Out of the entire team, only 3 people made it back alive, and they were completely traumatized and out of their minds. The survivors also returned empty-handed with the mission failing big time. Ai's full description is codependence of desire, which suggests some creepy dysfunctional dynamic in how it interacts with its victims. Supposedly Ai was locked up after being brought back from the Dark Continent, but reports of its victims have still popped up in the known world. According to the Hunter Association's Dangerous Creatures Evaluation List, Ai has an A-level threat ranking. Kukanu Kingdom. The 5th and final recorded voyage to the Dark Continent was pulled off by the Kukanu Kingdom, one of the V6 nations located north of the European continent. About 50 years ago, they decided to send an expedition to find a rare alchemical plant called Metallion. With the help of some hunters led by Bion Nitro, the team made it to the southern shore of Lake Mobius and even managed to secure the plant. Things were actually looking pretty good. This mission came the closest to being a successful one, but then on the way back their luck completely ran out. For some reason they went off course, and that's when disaster struck. The crew contacted Zobe, a mysterious disease, and one of the 5 threats from the Dark Continent. Out of the entire team, including the hunters, only Beyond and 5 others survived, along with 1 hunter who was infected by Zobe. To make things even worse, the Metallion plant they'd worked so hard to get withered and died before they could even get back to the known world. Zobe is ranked as the B+ level threat, and it's no joke. The disease has an insanely high fatality rate, with only 1 infected person known to have survived. Here's the creepy part. The survivor gained a freaky ability to live completely self-sufficiently for years. No food, no water, nothing. This self-sustenance comes from literally feeding on their own flesh, which regenerates at an accelerated rate. Unsurprisingly, the disease seems to mess with its victim's sanity. On top of that, it's said to darken the skin, but no one knows exactly how it's contracted, and there's no cure yet. Isaac Netero's team. Years before the Kukanu Kingdom's trip to the Dark Continent, a young Isaac Netero set off on his own undocumented expedition. But he wasn't alone. He was joined by Zig Zoldyck and Linné O'Derb, 2 other powerful Nen users. But even with their combined strength, the Dark Continent absolutely overwhelmed them. The whole experience was a non-stop losing battle, with nature itself throwing bigger, meaner challenges at them until they finally decided to turn back. Shaken by the insane risks and dangers of the Dark Continent, his concerns got even more personal when he found out his son, Beyond, had also tried to explore the uncharted continent. Netero took it upon himself to convince the V5 to extend the Inviolability Treaty to the Hunter Association as well, banning any hunter to venture to the Forbidden Land. In his final video message to the Zodiacs, Netero revealed that he had actually set foot in the New World twice. Despite everything, he still dreamed of seeing the Hunter Association take the lead in conquering the Dark Continent. In his eyes, they were the right ones for the job, not his son. Dawn Freaks. You might be wondering, if the Dark Continent is supposedly uncharted, how does the V5 know about its greatest resources and where to find them? Well, over 300 years ago, a guy named Dawn Freaks made the trip to the Dark Continent on his own. He explored the Mobius shoreline and recorded everything in a journal titled Journey to the New World. Dawn documented his travels in 2 volumes, an East edition and a West edition. However, only the East edition has been found, and it's now in the hands of the V6, formerly the V5. A copy of the East edition is stored in the basement of the International Permit Agency and was given to Steiner to read. The IPA director explains that the book was published centuries ago and was once dismissed as the ramblings of a lunatic. But now, thanks to testimonies from survivors of the 5 documented expeditions and evidence from the victims of the threats, the book has become legendary as a priceless source of knowledge about the Dark Continent. After the Black Whale departs, Steiner is seen aboard the ship with other IPA members, still reading the East Edition. When asked about why he's reading it again, Steiner suggests that at least read the chapter about the labyrinthine city they're heading to. That's likely the same place where the herb for all illnesses and the threat Bion are located. While the East Edition is securely with the V6, the West Edition has never been found. According to Ging, there are 3 possibilities. It hasn't been discovered yet, it was never written in the first place, or Don Freaks is still alive and working on it. The last theory doesn't sound too far-fetched, considering Don knew about the Nitro Rice and where to find it. Kakin Empire. The Kakin Empire's succession war, the current arc of the series, details the latest and ongoing attempt of humanity to reach the Dark Continent. Before his death, Isaac Netero banned his son Bion from heading there. This prompted Bion to start prepping for a future expedition by recruiting skilled people, securing funding, and plotting with Pariston Hill, who infiltrated the Hunter Association to assemble a team of temp hunters in view of the journey. Bion also struck a deal with King Nasubi of the Kakin Empire, promising to make him a legendary ruler in exchange for funding the trip. Nasubi publicly announced an open expedition to pressure the V5 and force them to act. The V5 hired the Hunter Association to capture Bion, but changed their approach when Kakin joined the alliance to form the V6. They decided to have the Zodiacs escort Bion to the Dark Continent instead. Behind the scenes, the V5 secretly backed Nasubi's project to share the riches, while insisting only the Hunter Association ships would proceed to the Dark Continent, tricking the public into thinking the new continent is the real deal. Meanwhile, Nasubi announced plans to build 20 more massive ships like the Black Whale, number 1, setting the stage for his family's voyage. Nasubi had his own plans, though. The Black Whale, number 1, wasn't just a cruise ship. Nasubi planned a deadly succession battle on board it to determine which of his 14 children would inherit the throne. This deathmatch includes not only the royal princes, but also Kakin's mafia families, who are fighting their own battles to help their sponsors win and gain power. The Zodiacs, meanwhile, are juggling preparations for the Dark Continent expedition and keeping Bion under control. At Bion's base, Pariston's shady plans were interrupted when Jing showed up to join the team. Around this time, both Jing and Pariston had left the Zodiacs, with Leorio and Kurapika stepping in to replace them. Kurapika joined the Zodiacs for a personal reason, getting closer to Serednik, the 4th prince of Kakin, who owns a large number of scarlet eyes. As the journey approached, the Zodiacs laid out their roles, and Cheadle kicked things off with the 289th Hunter exam, this time only allowing recruits for the expedition to pass. Kurapika used this time to investigate a potential mole in the Zodiacs, and with his dowsing chain identified Sayu as a spy for Beyond. Meanwhile, Kakin's seed urn ceremony began, where each of the 14 princes gave a drop of blood to the urn. This ritual gave them guardian spirit beasts, powerful Nen constructs linked to their survival in the succession battle. The stakes were deadly. Trying to flee the contest meant certain death. To get closer to Serednik, Kurapika hired hunters like Biscuit, Basho, Hanzo, Melody, and Izunavi to work as bodyguards for various princes. While Kurapika thought he'd end up with 9th Prince Halkenberg, he was instead assigned to protect Queen Oito and her baby, 14th Prince Wobble. Reluctantly, Kurapika took the job after Oito promised to help him get to Serednik. The Black Whale 1 will spend about 3 weeks cruising through territorial waters, then stop to refuel before heading into the risky uncharted waters for another 5 weeks. After that, it'll finally reach the so-called Dark Continent. When the Black Whale 1 finally set sail, chaos erupted almost immediately. Guardian spirit beasts began manifesting, and Kurapika made an emergency broadcast to warn the hunters. He discovered that the princes themselves couldn't see these beasts, which defied typical Nen rules. King Nasubi explains the beasts' restrictions. They can't kill each other or attack directly. This created a battle of strategy, giving even less combat-savvy princes a fighting chance. Kurapika offered to teach Nen to the royal guards to level the playing field, and 10 princes sent their bodyguards for lessons. As the deathmatch progressed, princes like Momoze, Sale, and Kancho met their ends. Meanwhile, the remaining contestants analyzed their guardian spirit beasts for any edge they could find. As if the royal bloodbath wasn't enough, Kakin's 3 mafia families joined the chaos. The Haley family, led by Morena, went on a killing spree to power up their Nen abilities. And to top it off, all of the Phantom Trope boarded the ship too, hunting Kakin's greatest treasures, and Hisoka, who was hunting them in return. The Mafia War, Trope, and Hisoka added another layer of mayhem to an already volatile situation. Then came the biggest revelation. Longi, a guard of the 5th Prince Tupepa, revealed that she's Bion's daughter. About 30 years ago, Bion orchestrated sham marriages within Kakin's military and fathered many children. These kids were Nen users from birth and were later sent to the Royal Military Academy. The plan was for his children to become royal guards for the Kakin princes. Longi's purpose, along with Bion's other children, was to be a living weapon and a sacrificial pawn for Bion's goals, likely meant to assassinate a certain prince. Longi believes Bion's bigger plan is to wrap up the succession war quickly and put a prince of his choosing on the throne. Longi speculated that one of the Kakin princes is actually Bion's child, and that's the one he wants to see crowned. With his secret child as the king, this would give him full control of Kakin's resources to fund his true obsession, conquering the Dark Continent. As of now, the voyage is on its 12th day. First Prince Benjamin has declared martial law, aiming to seize control of the ship, eliminate the other princes, and claim the throne before his time runs out. Hinting of a greater chaos the ship is descending further into before it could even reach its destination.